Hi everybody, it's Matt Armstrong, and in today's paper cut edition of The Pen Habit, we're going to be taking a look at some journals from a company called Paperblanks. So these are some Paperblanks journals. These journals were provided to me by Pen Habit viewer Indira. So Indira, thank you very much for the gift certificate. These were purchased from andersonpens.net. You can get them in a lot of places, but I just picked these up from andersonpens.net just recently. Most Paperblank journals come in 3 different sizes. So there is a little size here. This is the mini size. There is a mid size or midi size, and then there is the ultra size, and this is the ultra size. So you can see here, this is how they stack up next to each other. And in case you are looking for measurements, pull out the old calipers here and switch over to inches, just because I want to be difficult like that. So if we're looking at the mini size, we have got about 3.5 by 5.5 there. You're looking at 5 by 7 on the midi size, and then the ultra size, you're looking at 7 by probably 9 or so. It's my calipers don't go quite that far. So it is. These are really quite lovely journals. Now, one of the things that makes these Paperblank journals kind of interesting is that they are very ornately designed covers. All of them have really bright, kind of embossed, textured covers that can draw some attention. So if you're looking for something a little different than the standard kind of leatherette flat cover in, rhodia orange or black or whatever it is, if you want something with some design pizzazz, Paperblank journals will probably get you there. So this is the Ori, and it's got the this is the dune pattern. And it's got this really neat, kind of metallic, translucent. It does kind of look like dunes in the desert. This is a lined journal. All the journals I bought are lined. You can get them with different kinds of paper in them. $12.95 in the US for this one, as you can see. Nice paper. It's ivory colored, but it's not. So here's a piece of white paper by comparison. So it's ivory, but it's not like really ivory. It's just a little bit, almost more cream colored than ivory. Has a ribbon in it. Behind the front cover, just says Paperblanks there. Nice signature page. And the back, you've got more explanation about the journal, and then a little memento pocket and a rubber band to clasp the journal closed if that's something you're interested in. So pretty simple little journal. Now, for a journal this size for $13, it is a little on the pricey side, but I suspect you're paying for the design and the cover as much as anything else for this pen, or for this journal, excuse me. The MIDI version that I got is the Grolier Ornamentale, and this is the Grolier MIDI notebook. Really lovely, embossed, almost leather-looking design. Really neat binding on the side here. But they've got this metal clasp to keep the book closed. And then the pages themselves are printed on, so you get this nice design. This book also comes with cream-colored paper. Really nice paper. It's not terribly textured. It's pretty smooth, but not as coated smooth as like a Rhodia or a Clairefontaine. It's got just a little bit more texture than that, a little more velvety. It's also got a ribbon in the journal here, and a pouch, a memento pouch in the back as well. I really like the cover on this one quite a bit. And this one retails for $24.95. This one has, I can tell you here, let me check the back here, 240 pages, so 120 sheets, 240 pages in the MIDI of the Grolier. The mini of the Dune has 176 pages, so that would be, do math in my head, I think that would be 88 88 sheets, 176 pages. So you've got that. And then there is the Ultra. So this is the, use your words, Matt. Holy cow, it's been a night. This is the Tiffany stained glass Ultra. And I really like the cover on this. It reminds me, I went on a vacation to New York a few years ago and spent a day in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, which is just amazing. If you've never been, I highly recommend it. But they do, they have a Tiffany room with a bunch of Tiffany stained glass, and this reminds me a lot of that. It's really quite lovely. So they've got the front. This one has a neat spine. It's an exposed spine, so you can see the stitching, and then kind of an embossed, color on color, kind of matte and gloss back cover. Instead of a metal clasp or an elastic band, this has a metallic clasp with a little leather strap. Open it up. It's got a black signature page. And I did a little bit of writing here. I'll do some more in just a bit. But this has got the same paper. It's kind of the cream colored. It feels a little bit heavier than the other papers, but still smooth with just a hint of texture to it. And this also has the memento pouch in the back. This is the, as you can see, the Tiffany Autumn Vine pattern. So overall, I like these a lot. I like fancy things. This is not something I would carry with me to work. I don't really think it's appropriate for where I work. Not that anyone would care all that much because, I live in the West Coast. Nobody cares. But this is not something I personally would carry around at work with me. But I wouldn't have any hesitation using something like this as a personal journal or a way to keep notes at home, that sort of thing. I found that the Tiffany Autumn Vine with this exposed spine, and you can see it here, it lays completely and utterly flat. It just 100% completely flat, which I love. These big journals that don't lay all the way flat, there are a few things in this world that get my ire up faster than a journal that won't lay flat. I also find that the mini lays almost completely flat. You can, it's stitched in such a way that it lays quite nicely flat. The midi of the Grolier Ornamentale does not. Even if you kind of break the spine a little bit, it doesn't lay totally flat. I don't know. This bugs me just a little bit. I wish the midi laid flat because this is the size I would generally use to journal in. But in this particular case, if I had to pick a size to use, I would use the Ultra size because this is, and especially the spineless one, even though it has fewer pages, I believe this one only has 128 pages, I can tell you here. Yeah, 128 pages. The pages are a little bit larger, but this spineless binding really does have quite a lovely lay flat consistency that I really enjoy when I'm writing. So overall, really nice books, well bound, nice design colors, a little flashier than some people might like. But the real question is, how do they write with fountain pens? So let me go ahead. I'm going to use the Ultra for this particular case. Going to use a bunch of different pens and show you how it writes. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'll just kind of use a bunch of different pens that I've got inked at the moment. You'll see some repeated inks because I've got these pens inked up for an ink review coming up. But this is the Jinhao 599. And this is in fine. And the ink is Franklin Christoph Tenebris Purpuratum. Okay. Next, we'll take a look at a medium nib. This is the Cross Century 2. Review coming up shortly, by the way, in a medium nib. And the ink in this is Iroshizuku Kujaku. This is a lovely Pelikan M805 brown tortoise that has an oblique broad nib in it. So this is a Pelikan. And this ink is Private Reserve Chocolat. Nice juicy nib right there. You can see some of the liquid of the ink reflecting the light there. Let's see, what do we have here? Oh, so this is technically a medium, but it writes broader than the Pelikan Broad. This is a Pelikan M1000. And this is technically a medium, or what they call a medium, but this is Diatramentis Aubergine. And you can probably see we get some feathering with this ink. Aubergine does tend to run pretty wet, and this pen is super broad and super wet. In fact, I need to have it adjusted by a Nibmeister. Review of this one coming up as well. Let's do a couple of flex pens. So we'll start with the modern flex first. This is the Pilot Custom Heritage 912 with a falcon nib, and the ink is Emerald of Chivor by J. Urban. Also quite wet as a flexi pen, but you can still, I don't know if you'll be able to see it here on the video, I am able to see some of the gold materials and a little bit of the sheen, but this paper is a bit more absorbent than something like a Tomoe River or a Rhodia, so you're not going to see as much sheening on this particular paper. Then a little bit of vintage flex to go along with it. This is the Waterman number 7 with a flex nib. And this ink is also Franklin Christoph Tenebris Purpuratum. Also quite wet here, but you see it's not spreading quite as much, not getting as much feathering as we did with the Aubergine. The dreaded ink to end all dreaded inks, we have a Jinhao X450 with a medium nib, and this is Noodler's, say it with me now, Bay State Blue. And then last but not least, let's do a little bit of semi-calligraphic writing. So this is a Pilot Parallels 2.4 millimeter, and the ink is alrighty. So you can see this is also quite wet here. You can see the reflection of the light on that ink. It's still quite wet. So let's go back through. On fine and medium, it looks like it does pretty well. Even in the oblique broad, the Private Reserve Chocolat, doesn't feather very much at all. So these three do pretty well in terms of feathering. Once we hit the really wet inks, though, that's when we start having problems. So M1000, super wet. The Custom Heritage 912, we start to get some feathering. Get some feathering on the Waterman Flex, some feathering on the Jinhao, or on the Noodler's Bay State Blue. But Bay State Blue feathers on absolutely everything, so that's not a huge surprise. And the Lamy Copper Orange isn't feathering a whole lot. It is a little bit, but not as much as you'd expect for as wet as the ink is. But if we want to look at the back side of the paper, here's where things get a little bit more interesting. So you can see here's the fine, medium. Once we hit oblique broad, we start to get bleed through, and then bleed through is pretty bad through everything else. So this is a journal that I probably wouldn't recommend to practice your flex writing in, or your italics calligraphy or your Gothic calligraphy. But it's something that would probably work really nicely if you are the kind of person who likes to write with a fine, an extra fine, or a medium as kind of a journal, especially if you use inks that are known to be well-behaved inks, something like Iroshizuku or Franklin Christoph inks generally tend to be pretty well-behaved on paper where feathering can be a problem. So overall, the paper's nice and thick. It's not the best quality paper, unfortunately. I don't feel like the quality of the paper kind of stands up to the quality of the journal itself for fountain pen inks. I'm not big into ballpoints or gel pens or roller balls or other things like that. So I don't really have much else to compare it to there, but in terms of fountain pen inks, it's good for the more traditional writing, but if you're going to do art or things like that, this probably isn't the paper that's best for you. So thank you very much for watching, and a huge thank you to Indira for providing the gift certificate to buy these Paperblank journals. I'm keeping the Ultra for myself, and I'm going to be doing a giveaway for both the Ori Mini and the Grolier MIDI. So keep an eye over at penhabit.com for the giveaways for these two. I will probably combine them with giveaways with pens rather than pay for shipping separately. But thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below over at penhabit.com or across the social media platforms where I hang out at times. And we will see you here next time on The Pen Habit. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.